Hello, colleagues. Welcome to the Global Coalition to Address Synthetic Drug Threats. This is a special session of Working Group number 2, Detecting Emerging Threats and Patterns. I have a few administrative announcements before we get started for today. First, I want to thank everybody for your participation over the past several months. We now have 1,500 plus participants in our coalition, representing 149 countries. We have now had over 70 hours of sub-working group meetings, and the goal of today's session is going to be to discuss progress that has been made over the past 6 months since the last working group meeting. Then we're going to review the recommendations, the draft recommendations for everyone's consideration. We will invite comments from the participants here today before the recommendations are posted on the website. Please note that governments do not need to adopt all of the recommendations. They can choose which recommendations best align with their vision, their plans and goals and strategies. And also governments can implement recommendations outside of these as well. Now, if there's additional time needed today for discussion because we run out of time, there's a lot of discussion, that's okay. We can continue the discussions in April at the next sub-working group meeting for those sub-working groups where we do not finish. Now, also, I want to highlight that in April, we will also begin the implementation of the initiatives. And so one way to do that, there are global initiatives that we are proposing. You can visit the Global Coalition website and look at the various initiatives that are there and select those that are of interest. How to do that? Well, globalcoalition.us, you will see on the taskbar that there is an initiatives tab. When you click on it, you will see a listing of close to 100 plus initiatives or activities. You can click on those, and when you do, you'll get a full description with the background. And at the very end of the page, you will see a contact for individuals at the international organizations that are managing these projects, these global initiatives. Feel free, please reach out to them, email them, say, I'd like to participate in this initiative, my name, my contact information, my country, and then you will be added to the request list for participating in these initiatives, and apply to as many of these initiatives as you find of interest, and also share with other colleagues in your government that may be covering other aspects like data collection, health, or law enforcement work. So that is a lot of information to share, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And now I welcome our two co-chairs for working group number 2. From Kyrgyzstan, we have Tinatin Sakimbayeva, and from Pakistan, we have Omer Alvi. Over to our two colleagues to lead our session today and for their thoughts and comments. Thank you so much.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые коллеги. Вам слышно?
Dear colleagues, can you hear me? Hello. I welcome you to the session of Working Group number 2. I'm the representative of the Kyrgyz Republic, and I would like to express a tremendous gratitude to be a co-chair and participate in the work of the Global Coalition. Our meeting deals with new threats of drugs, and we're here to discuss the key positions and recommendations, and also to resort to active measures, as we already mentioned, that will help us to be more effective in combating the challenges. The working group number 2 has been engaged in identifying new threats due to drugs and finding out the patterns of their consumption. We have 2.1 subgroup that has been focused on collecting data, and 2.2 that's been doing exchanging information and formulating political decisions. The first subgroup was discussing early warning system on the national and regional levels. We also discussed important things as REQ, reporting and monitoring the situation through different platforms. 2.2 was discussing the important issue of exchanging information and policy making We also looked at the epidemiological network in Africa, and then we passed on to developing international strategies to control drugs and synthetic drugs, including synthetic drugs. We also had a discussion of assessing regional challenges and establishing protocols to exchange swiftly information pertinent to border threats. During the recent months, we have been active in discussing the mechanism of exchanging mechanism of interaction between various agencies of different countries. We also developed recommendations to enhance the quality information pertinent to the harm that drugs and narcotics could cause. We think that we need to establish a stable system of collecting data at national levels, as well as develop innovative methods of collecting and gathering information, analyzing the water discharge and such like. We also pointed out the importance of interaction between the labs, law enforcement, and all the parties involved in improving the real-time data exchanges. That's the only way we can be effectively responding to new threats and preventing them. As far as Kyrgyzstan is concerned, I would say that our country has been very actively involved in the processes we're discussing here. Our experts monthly have work on a monthly basis collecting drug data and introducing innovative methods. At least we've been trying and we've been keen on achieving that. Our country has been actively participating in exchanging information. As far as I'm concerned, our region used to have a TSARIC system. Unfortunately, it stopped operating, but I know we are working on reintroducing that system in our region. We also had a meeting of the working group number 2. It was a person-to-person meeting. I got in touch with some experts in my country in order to be able to implement as much information as possible and reintroduce the data collection in our region. In summary, I would like to emphasize the importance of our work, and I'll call upon everyone to participate in developing recommendations. That's the only way to achieve major results, and colleagues have pointed out before, all that to enhance and improve the security system and make the life of our society safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now I will turn over to Omar Alvi for any comments to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much, Sarah. First of all, I would tender my apology for being away on some important assignments, and I missed, I would say, most of the parts of the work that has already been done. But having looked at the outcome or the recommendations that were shared by the coalition team, I would highly appreciate and would first of all reiterate that we are deeply committed to addressing the global challenges of narcotics and synthetic drugs. As it's really imperative that we collectively confront the evolving threat posed by illicit substances generally, and the synthetic drugs in particular, and work towards a safer, healthier world. I would also appreciate the mechanism adopted by this platform, the GCSD platform, of coming up with I would call them very flexible recommendations, as Brian said in the beginning, that countries and they are of highly recommended nature, and it's not obligatory on the countries to adopt them. They're quite at ease to adopt whatever suits them and make the required amendments that would suit their need. For this working group, as we know that we had 2 sub-working groups, and they worked on data collection, analysis, and trend, including early warnings. And the second group worked on information sharing, interagency collaboration, and policy formulation. I must say that both of the areas are immensely important and could play a very significant role in combating the emerging threats of synthetic drugs globally. When we look, I would not delve deeper into those recommendations, because I would leave it to the co-chairs of those respective sub-working groups to discuss on. But it is quite interesting to find them to have focused on improving information on drug composition, origin of substance, as well as the patterns of use. They have also worked on the development of encouraged development of regional coalitions. I mean, apart from the global ones, and the development of early warning systems. But what I found most interesting and most appreciable in the recommendations of the second working group, that is 2.2, is that although there are certain recommendations that are being made by this platform, but countries can adopt them following their national laws and legislations. So that's giving a respect to those laws and honoring them. I would say that it's a great gesture. And I would say that it would go a long way towards the countries to welcome those recommendations from this platform as well. So towards the end, I mean, since I work with the Ministry of Narcotics Control here in Pakistan, I would again reiterate my country's commitment to work together along with its global partners to curb this menace of narcotics, and particularly the emerging threats of synthetic drugs. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to turn it over to the co-chair of our working group 2.1 on data collection, analysis, and trends, including early warning, Hetty Widyastuti from Indonesia. Over to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. Hi, Sarah. Hey, everybody. I hope you all are healthy and happy this morning. And okay, so working groups 2.1. We have met each month to discuss best practices, showcase initiatives, also identify gaps and challenges of how to develop early warning system at a national level, sub-regional, and regional. This morning, we will present the report by sub-working group 2.1, summarize the work of the sub-working group since October 2023, and present the draft list of recommendations for discussion for 10 minutes, and also moderate a discussion for 10 minutes after. It's a precious 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so let's start with the presentation. Okay, sub-working group 2.1 discussion, November 2023, how to develop early warning systems at a national level, regional and sub-regional early warning system. December 2023, World Drug Report, reporting through ARQ and reporting at the sub-regional level. Drugs monitoring platform, threats and assets assessments. January 2024, intelligent analysis, role and impact on PDES, mission of curtailing the drug supply, monitoring drug market trends with innovative data tools, UNODC Drugs Monitoring Platform, and February 2024, Strategic Intelligence Development, Challenges and Recommendations, Science Trend Open Network Exchange, or STOL. Next. Recommendations. Improve information on drug composition, origin of substances, patterns of use and harm by providing UPEN requests, forensic laboratory, equipment, mentoring, technical assistance, sharing of reference standards, supporting laboratory accreditation, a global forensic network to integrate regional networks, and support the development of regional intelligence networks of forensic laboratories, epidemiologists, researchers, academics, law enforcement departments, and community stakeholders, NGOs, to improve data collections. Next, facilitate and institutionalize sustainable and recurring data collection, analysis, and reporting systems through the establishment of national drug observatories and regional epidemiology networks with the purpose of strengthening early warning systems and international data collection and also dissemination platforms, e.g. regional epidemiology networks, ARQ, DMP, EWA, Tox Portal, INCBIS, Form D for chemicals, etc. Next. Introduce and expand innovation of drug data collection techniques such as wastewater analysis, AI data collection tools, rapid institutional assessments, web-based clinical screening tools, access to data visualization through training and technical assistance, where appropriate and in accordance with national legislation and regulation, to provide greater clarity and precision with respect to drug use and trafficking. Strengthen existing work streams and establish new ones where appropriate between forensic laboratories, national stakeholders, including the community, NGOs, health organizations, and researchers, academia, to improve data collection and sharing to allow for real-time usage, including the development of mechanisms to alert emergency rooms and clinicians of new substances that are being detected through data from CSERS and international early warning alerts in collaboration with emergency room and clinical treatment. Share health data, including information on potential spikes, overdoses that could inform timely intervention or prevention efforts. Yes, so it's the recommendation, and should we start for the discussion?
First, and Hetty, thank you so much for reading those out, because it's so helpful to read them out, because since we can only have the text in English, that way we can have the translation there. So thank you so much. Yeah, we can probably open it up for discussion, right, Brian?
Yes, I'll
Yeah.
pause the recording and we can start the discussion.
Okay, any participants would like to speak, please?
And a friendly reminder from a technical moderator that you can find raise hand button if you click reactions.
I haven't seen any raised hand.
I think that means there's agreement on the recommendations then.
So we can wrap it up.
So if there are no further comments on the subworking group 2.1 recommendations, we can move to subworking group 2.2. We'll just give it another few seconds to see if anyone else has any recommendations.
Okay.
No, I think we're good then. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
No, we
Okay,
have.
Omar.
Please, Omer.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's not it's not that I wanted to any clarification on this. It's rather that I would particularly go and appreciate the work done by SW 2.1. If we go to the recommendation number 9, we can find it quite elaborative. It gives us the areas where information sharing can be done. It provides with the mode, the way, how, the how part, the how it is to be done. And it also focuses on certain additional steps that member countries can take towards the sharing of this information. And I would highly appreciate the wide range of coverage that this particular, I mean, those 6 lines that I would say give to this particular area. Similarly, if we go to the recommendation 10, we find it covering a lot of things like featuring features of the data collection, sharing mechanisms. It goes again to the mode of how to do it, moving from the national, working towards the regional, and then towards the international and global sharing of data, and also outlining the purpose behind it. So overall, I mean, even if we go to the other recommendations of this sub-working group, I would find them quite exhaustive, quite wide to cover and to cover the vast area that this topic may consist of, as well as quite flexible, so that different countries can move on with whatever mode they want to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar. Yeah, as presented and discussed, most countries already have data system, especially for narcotic data. Yes, it's been narcotic already disaster for countries. And few of them also have early warning system and use it to give immediate warning and immediate response to minimize the impact, especially for synthetic drugs and its disaster impact. Thank you, Omar. Okay, we have another one, Vera. She asked for the first slide of the recommendation, I guess. Is this what you need, Vera? The 9 and 10 recommendations?
Thank you very much.
See, please.
No, I just wanted to clarify because I attended the session last night for the Western group, and I do note that recommendation 9 is different from what was presented last night. So I just wanted to clarify if this would be the latest version, or when would the latest version of the recommendations be circulated to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Sarah, as she's the one that put the slides together. Sarah, did you update based on last for us this morning's meeting, or could you explain?
You know, I have to say that developing the recommendations has been an iterative process. It's very possible that we've been trying to keep the most up to date, because we are adjusting these as we receive feedback. So it's possible that our team has updated it, but at the end of the day, we will be sending out, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, we will be sending out a final version of the recommendations based on the feedback we received during this meeting. Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's right. Yeah, we'll send a final version once it's done. But I think also for these recommendations, we didn't finish them in the West group session, so these will continue into the April session. So in the case of 1.1 and 2.1, we had well, in the case of 1.1, for example, we had closure, but 1.2 and 2.2 in the West group still had more discussion. So I think that we won't be able to close those and post them as final on the website until we hear from both regions of the world.
Okay, so it's still living documents. So yes, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, there's more in chat room. UN and Orano would like to see the second slide of recommendations.
I can do that.
Yes, please.
This one?
Okay, this one, please. UN, Orano. please, we are open for discussion. Is there something that you want to?
Yes, that's the one. Thank you very much.
And I do want to say also that we are trying to be as open and inclusive as possible to consolidate and reconcile all feedback that we receive. So we are in an iterative process, Vera, like you said. That's why we're notating the red lines and etc. So we are working our hardest to make sure that all input and feedback we receive is incorporated into this document. And we really appreciate everyone's attention to it as well. Thank you.
Yes. How about Masud W asked in chat room how Pakistan is keeping centralized data from different stakeholders. Is it
Thank you, Hetty. You see, presently we have different law enforcing agencies in Pakistan, and but the premier law enforcing agency vis-a-vis the narcotics is the anti-narcotics force, which is a federal law enforcement agencies, and we have many wings of that force which actually cover the entire spectrum of narcotics control, that is ranging from the field operations towards intelligence sharing as well as international cooperations and capacity building as well. Presently what we are doing is that this premier law enforcement agency is in fact collecting data from all other regional and specialized law enforcement agencies like customs as well as the local police and those. So they periodically share the data which is actually deposited into the larger data set of the country. But more recently, we have also received an initiative from the UNODC with the support of INL as well. It's regarding the establishment of a fusion center in Pakistan. So although there has been quite hiccups in this initiative initially from the government side, from various agencies, but finally it's all settled, and we are coming up with the more real-time database collection as well as sharing, which would be centered at Islamabad, which is the capital, and it would get real-time information from various regional or provincial or specialized law enforcement agencies like excise and taxation, or the customs, like I mentioned earlier, the maritime agencies or other agencies. So this is how we are actually doing at the moment. So it's more like moving from a conventional mode towards a more real-time and more mechanized and technical mode, the modern ways of data collection that is being carried out globally at the moment. So this is what we have at the moment.
Yes, thank you very much, Omar. Okay, there's another question. Vera asked for the confirmation that both the East and West groups will have the same set of recommendations. I guess, Brian.
That's right. We will have one set of recommendations that we post on the website. So that we're trying to collect from both sides and share with both sides, but the goal is to have one body of recommendations that countries, again, we're looking for an ample set of recommendations so countries can identify where they would like to implement. It's very much at the disposal of countries to choose those recommendations that best align with their strategies and policies and legislation. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Tina, would you want to ask something or to add something, please?
Добавить, наверное, и
I probably would like to add something and maybe share something, our experience I was just thinking that maybe that will be more beneficial to share in a conversation, or maybe I can write an email. But you mentioned earlier that you would like to have a presentation or something. So I would like to say something about the Central Asian region. We are talking about the system of collecting data on the wastewater, on other information, and we really are kind of decentralized in that, and we are looking into doing something more centralized. We also are trying to include the laboratories who provide the expertise on the toxicology. Probably we have a lot of experience which we can share with the other regions, because from the technical uh, technical side of the issue, we probably could receive some support, but from the kind of methodological, we can share our methodologies. We are looking at the synthetic drugs which we see in our region. We probably differ from other regions, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan. We are looking at very specific drugs, and our countries are talking about identifying them better, and the precursor chemicals, we also need methodologies for identifying them. So again, I would love to talk about this, and we would like to talk about our region in more details. We are similar to Pakistan. We use one centralized agency which deals with collecting data on all the illicit drugs. And right now that agency is sharing it, but we would like to add additional players into the system. So we wanted kind of to talk about this and maybe compare it to other regions in Central Asia and in other regions of the world, and see how that can be done more productively, how we can do it on one level, sort of kind of synchronize our efforts and learn from others. Because we still, if we're looking at the regional, national, or international level, we still kind of struggle with gathering data, and we have questions. We're learning from other colleagues, and we would love to not to lag behind. I'm kind of I'm a little discombobulated in my in my delivery. I'm a little nervous, but hopefully you understood what I was trying to say. And we would like to share what we do here in Central Asia, and would love to come to the next meetings with some sort of presentation. So sorry if it was a little bit too much nerves. Sorry.
No worries, Sarah. We can understand it. Oh, not Sarah, Tina. Okay. Okay. I think we have no other question or raise hand. So, okay, the Global Coalition effort really gives us opportunity to talk, share, discuss our each nation progress, and discuss what kind of system and data which can distribute or exchange to develop early warning system of synthetic drug trades for sub-regional and regional. Let's keep up our best effort for best result for all. Thank you very much. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Hetty. I'm going to resume the recording. And now I would like to turn it over to our co-chairs for sub-working group 2.2. We have from Fiji, Serupepeli Neko, and from Australia, Amber Migas and Shane Nielsen. So over to them for information sharing, interagency collaboration, and policy formulation. Are Seru and Amber and Shane on the line? Thought I had seen them earlier, but if not, I'm happy to read the recommendations and we can
And
continue.
Saru, I believe Saru Neko is here. He's
Thank you.
unmuted. Go ahead,
Thank you,
please.
Brian.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to all participants that are online for this very important meeting today. It's good afternoon. It's from Fiji, and just to extend our sincere appreciation to Brian and Sarah and the team for including Fiji into this global coalition. Although we are far away in the Pacific Ocean, we are ocean state, and for us to be included in this global coalition forum, it's really, we are so grateful to be part of it, especially looking at the sub-working group 2.2 on information sharing, interagency collaboration, and policy formulation. It's an opportune time for Fiji to be part of this global coalition, given that we are trying to look at our national drug control strategy, and also we're trying to really look at data sharing in terms of not only in Fiji but with all the other parts of the Pacific. And it has been a great learning experience for us, especially listening to the various background of presentation and speakers from all different groups during this meeting, especially. And yes, for us, Fiji, we will always be here to support the work of the global coalition. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much. And I see Amber is on. I don't know if she's having trouble unmuting her microphone, but I'll try once again. Amber, if you can hear us and you can say a few words.
And Amber, I'm going to go ahead and try to unmute you. We'll see if that works. And it looks like I'm unable to unmute Amber. It usually happens if it's a bad internet connection. So I don't think we're going to be able to give her the floor.
Well, I see Shane and Amber there. They're in outer space with the background. They're trying to log on there. I think we'll give them a minute here to see if they can log in.
It's hard when you're zooming in from outer space, no?
From the space station.
And I'm going to go ahead and try to unmute them.
Thank you.
And you're now unmuted. Please go ahead.
We can hear you, Amber. Welcome.
Welcome. Apologies, everyone. Technological issues with one of the systems. So our session is information sharing, interagency collaboration and policy formulation. So just to remind everyone, the objectives of Subworking Group 2.2 are to focus on data systems and research that must be maintained, enhanced and supplemented so drug control practitioners, researchers and policymakers are continually informed by the most up-to-date and accurate information. So this group emphasises initiatives that expand information sharing on current and new trends in drug use and identifying areas of interest to collaboratively address data and evidence gaps to inform policy and programs nationally and regionally. So our discussions have had the benefit of presentations on the following. So in October 23, we had a presentation on information sharing, interagency collaboration and policy formulation. In November, we had presentations focused on Pan-African epidemiology networks on drug use, programs to develop and strengthen national observatories on demand and supply, and monitoring and sharing of internet and social media. In December 23, we had presentations on the process of scheduling, reporting on NPS for the purpose of ECDD reviews, and sharing information, the UNODC Laboratory and Scientific Services International Collaborative Exercise. In January 24, we had a focus on wastewater and presentations on collecting wastewater data and operational and policy outcomes of wastewater analysis, as well as global framework to achieve class scheduling. And in February 2024, we focused on exploring the UN toolkit on synthetic drugs, a presentation for training for policymakers, and also the International Network for Legislation on Illicit Drugs, or INLOD. So just to provide a brief overview, key themes that have been covered during 2.2 discussions have been the need to define the drug problem for each agency, country or region. What we're facing is the need to obtain, establish and share basic and more complex tools and methodologies so there's a more level playing field in terms of understanding. Only after this has occurred is there value in examining more complex issues such as consistent legislation and coordinated policy across borders, each of which is a really desirable outcome. So this leads us to our recommendations for 2.2, please. And these are to develop, resource, assess, implement, monitor, and evaluate national drug strategies and synthetic drug action plans through support from international and regional organisations upon request and in accordance with national legislation and regulations. Look to develop an international network for legislation on drugs, which is known as INLOD, to support the development and review of legislative, administrative and policy initiatives and adoption by legislative and executive bodies. Look to assess rapidly evolving regional synthetic drug challenges by holding frequent reoccurring meetings of regional partners, intelligence analysts, and other networks to develop regional responses through dialogue, policy adoption, coordinated actions, data sharing, and program implementation. And also establish protocols and promote the use of existing global platforms for the rapid exchange of information related to cross-border threats upon request and in accordance with national legislation and regulations. Also, in considering the above recommendations, we also think with respect that there's also been a little bit of disconnect between some of the discussions at our workshop meetings and the current recommendations. So for example, within our sub-working group 2.2 presentations, we've underlined the value to be had from promoting relatively easy to implement practical initiatives such as wastewater analysis, an increased focus on sharing of epidemiological data and expertise and forensic standards and data. And we think these additional recommendations meet the key themes of the sub-working group discussions and also the original stated objectives of the sub-working group. But in saying that also too, we also see these initiatives not only being 2.2 recommendations, but also global coalition recommendations, which can meet the objectives of a number of working groups. And to us, the working groups and sub-working groups are somewhat artificial constructs because the aim should be to pursue overarching global coalition objectives. So we would like to open this open discussion now to the chairs and the broader group for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amber. I'm going to pause the recording so we can invite others to then raise their hand and comment. So recording paused. Any comments or questions on these recommendations? I will maybe take the floor then as we think further to say that one area that we are very interested in operationalizing is the recommendation around the International Network for Legislation on Drugs. And we are in the process of committing resources to UNODC and to the Organization of American States so they can start working with countries to build parliamentary networks of parliamentarians or congressional staff, depending on how your countries are set up. But we would also invite you all as coalition members to help contribute with the names of perhaps some champion legislators in your countries, or even some, if there's some committees within your parliaments or congresses that work on the issues of drugs or national security, that UNODC could engage them in sort of affiliating into a network, developing a prioritization list of sort of areas of interest, and then working with the staffers, those that typically write the drafters of legislation, to come together and share some sample legislations in helping develop some of that and closing some of the gaps or loopholes that we're finding around the world in our countries. So that's something on the horizon, something that we feel strongly about in the United States that we would like to operationalize as one of the coalition recommendations. And if there's other recommendations that resonate with all of you, we also invite you all to reflect that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and also feel free to raise your hand and cut me off. I'm kind of saying the same message I did in the last session, which I think a lot of same folk were here for. But as we hear these recommendations, if you have examples from your country that reflect or exemplify the recommendations that are being put forward, like, please reach out to us, because we would love to, it would be great to get a presentation for you or from you for the April to August sessions. We would love to be highlighting these best practices and kind of how these are applied in different countries. So please feel free to reach out to us if you would like to showcase what's been going on in your country, so we can make everything come to light. Thank you.
Yes, Omer, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sarah. It's just a very small comment, rather a sort of recommendation as well. I mean, when we talked about 2.1 or 2.2 sub-working groups, we talked a lot about the capacity building things, and definitely the hand holding and capacity building is a very important area when we work globally and we try to work together. We need to have capacity of almost a similar level. But you see, while offering those openings and while availing those opportunities, one thing needs to be very carefully done, and that is the selection of the appropriate person for the appropriate sort of capacity building. So you see, when we come into the realm of narcotics control, we find two different bodies working. One would be the governmental body, which would actually go with the formulation of national policies and strategies, and the other would be the implementers, who would actually be going on to in the ground and actually implementing those strategies. So in case we give any sort of capacity building regarding policy formulation to the implementers, that would be resources gone wasted, and similarly vice versa, because how to combat narcotics and on the ground would not be of any use towards a person who is engaged in policy making. So what I would recommend here is that at both ends, whether offering of those opportunities or availing those opportunities, the countries need to be very specific regarding selection of the appropriate person and be focused on who actually does what in this field. So this is just a small comment on this. Thank you.
Excellent, wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions? As I said earlier, we will have 2 sessions at the upcoming Commission on Narcotic Drugs. For those colleagues that attend, we'll have one session for the Global Coalition donor countries that will come together to discuss how we better coordinate sort of support for counter-narcotics work globally that can also support the recommendations of the Global Coalition. And then we'll have another session that will look at the structure of going from recommendations to initiatives, and from those initiatives to achievements. And then and so that will be between April and July. We'll be looking for concrete achievements in support of these different initiatives. And then we'll be looking maybe 1-2 years down the road at what the outcomes are, measurable outcomes to make sure that there's impact at the end of the day in terms of what we're all working to achieve. But right now we're between the phase of recommendations and the initiatives. And we will start asking countries to report what they are doing to support these recommendations. You can indicate that you have subscribed to some of these international initiatives, but you can also report your national actions, and that's perfectly fine as well, national steps that you've taken in support of a number of these recommendations. So if there are no further comments or questions on this, I'll then turn it back to our co-chairs to give their final comments. We have just a few minutes, and then we can take a few-minute break before our next session at the top of the hour. So back to our co-chairs, to both Tina Tien and Omer for their final thoughts and comments as we wrap up today's session. Let me start recording once again. Back to our Working Group 2 co-chairs. Thank you so much.
Благодарю вас. Слышно ли меня?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Everything
Yes, go
okay?
ahead, please.
I would like to summarize this session. You must have noticed there isn't much to comment on or add to this. We've covered basically the entire system of data collection and formulating new policies. I already mentioned before, we need to pull up to the level of other countries to be more effective in pursuing the various directions and trends. It's of tremendous importance to humanity and all the world. We just would like to express our gratitude to you. We're going to be implementing very actively in our country what we decide here. I already said before, we are lacking on the national level, but we're trying our best to be able to put to use the recommendations as to make them fit our laws and work collaboratively and collectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And Omer, over to you. You have the final word of the session.
Thank you very much, Brian, and thank you. I'm also thankful to Tina for having done a lot a lot of things that was actually to be done by me. So she has really helped with this working group a lot, and I would really appreciate the work done by the sub-working groups and the areas which are quite wide enough to cover all the aspects of the two given areas. And in particular, every recommendation starting from 9 till, I would say, till 17, it actually covers the areas and also give us the how part. The how to do it is also clearly embedded in those recommendations. So I really hope that these recommendations would go through and would be a set of the larger recommendations made by the coalition team. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much to both of you. I will now close the session for Working Group 2, and we will reconvene in 3 minutes. Cyril will begin with the announcements for the next and final session of today. Thank you so much.